I've seen a lot of videos floating around about this iceberg trend, normally featuring a PNG image of an iceberg, with each sector of the iceberg being delegated to certain topics and subject matter. For those of you who don't know of this trend, an iceberg is a concept used to go into depth about a particular topic, with the tip of the iceberg having the most well-known theories and concepts of whatever you're talking about. However, the farther you go down, the more eerie, unknown, and conspiratorial the theories become. And this is the perfect setup for me to showcase you this image. This is the largest iceberg I have ever seen on the internet, with the depths of this list far below even the lowest point on the iceberg. The Reddit user I saw who posted this labels this iceberg as the chart of truth. The earliest I saw this post date back to was a 2018 post from 4chan. Now, for obvious reasons, I cannot cover every single individual subtopic that this iceberg has to offer, since, as far as I'm aware, there seems to be over 1,000 of these. This video will cover very dark subject matters such as murder, political extremism, religion, and conspiracy theories about the government. So if you're sensitive to that, then you can get the fuck out, the door's over there. I'd like to thank my good friends for helping me find this iceberg. This video would not be possible without their help. But that's enough stalling for this video. Without further ado, let's get into this. Elk penis. Creationism. Creationism is the belief that the universe, and anything that exists, is all created by a divine being. In other words, a god. Creationists tend to shove down any mention of evolution, sticking to this sort of anti-Darwinism idea that only a divine being has the capability of creating anything at all. One of the most popular creationist groups are the young Earth creationists, who claim that the universe and all life in general manifested into existence at most 10,000 years ago.
That's correct. There were serious
Biblical aliens. I was not able to find any sort of relation to aliens in the Bible. Now, there's a million and one things that this entry could be referring to, since many of the creatures in the Bible look otherworldly. However, literal aliens on UFOs? No. The Bilderberg meeting. The Bilderberg meeting is an annual conference held between North America and Europe, with the main purpose of this meeting being to prevent a second world war, and maintain the order of the world as a whole at peace. However, many people have conspired that this meeting comes off as very fishy. Journalists aren't allowed, security in the facility is high, and no one involved is allowed to discuss the topics in the meeting. Because of this, many people are curious about the true discussions had in the meeting. Some think this is the meeting ground for some secret organization to manipulate large population centers. Some think this is how the CIA runs the government. And some think this meeting is used to start the establishment of a new world order. Pizzagate. The Pizzagate scandal is far too complex and big of a topic for me to cover in a small amount of time. But in short, Pizzagate was a really popular conspiracy theory that told that many high-ranking political figures were connected to pizza restaurants that harbored a human trafficking and child sex ring. This theory mainly came into fruition as a result of the 2016 election, in which many people would claim that one of Hillary's emails had encoded information that mentioned involvement in human trafficking. The main restaurant involved with the conspiracy was Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria, of which many alleged to also harbor odd religious practices such as satanic rituals. Bible Code. The Bible Code is this set of hidden cryptic messages, all of which are written in Hebrew. It's said that many of the messages in this text have predicted major world events such as 9/11, the 2016 election, and the emergence of COVID-19. Many people who have looked deeper in the text claim that the Bible Code has predicted a future Armageddon, and the end of the world as we know it. Number stations. Number stations are these weird channels you can flick past on the radio. Essentially what they do is read off numbers periodically in a very creepy fashion. These numbers have encoded messages within them, with many people believing that these are just radio stations used to report sensitive government information. In theory, each of the numbers read off correspond to a specific letter. The people meant to decode these messages use a one-time code to decrypt the message, and in order to keep the messages uncrackable, they switch the sheet and the corresponding letter with each message. Reptilians. The reptilian theory is very simple. The theory says that there are these shape-shifting alien humanoid creatures that take the form of prominent celebrities and political figures in order to gain power, manipulate, and control humanity for their own benefit. XXX Tentacion was killed by D. No! Green children. At around the late 12th century to the early 13th century, two mysterious children, a boy and a girl, appeared in a small village in Suffolk, England. Everything about these children were completely normal, except there was one strange alteration. The children's skin was completely green. Not only that, but when they tried to speak to other villagers, they spoke in a completely unknown language. The only food they would consume were raw broad beans. And when the kids grew up, they fully lost their green pigment, learned English, and became familiar with regular everyday life. After the brother had passed away, the sister explained to the people that they had come from this strange subterranean world called St. Martin's Land. Many people claim that these children had been the products of alien experimentation, and when the extraterrestrials were finally done, they dropped them off in this strange location. The more logical explanation is that the children were completely excluded from civilization and left to die, eventually contracting a sickness creatively named the Green Sickness, which happens as a result of malnutrition. AIDS was spread by the CIA. This entry on the list suggests that the very well-known AIDS virus was spread by the CIA. People point to this theory for multiple reasons, with one of them involving the idea that it was created by the CIA to eliminate homosexuals and African Americans. Theorists claim that the virus was originally spread through the 1978 hepatitis B experiments in New York. JFK was killed by the CIA. Everybody knows how the late President JFK died. He was shot in 1963 during a drive around the plaza by Lee Harvey Oswald. Or did he? You see, some people claim that the CIA had ties to his assassination. Several reasons for people believing this theory are the fact that Kennedy was looking to cut spending for the agency by a considerable margin, to the firing of certain CIA officials, to secret ties to the Soviet government. Clinton body doubles. This theory seems to refer more to the previous 2016 presidential candidate, Hillary Clinton. There was a pretty viral clip that went around the internet when Hillary stumbled and nearly fell to the ground after a 9/11 ceremony. People assumed she went to the hospital to recover. However, internet users became suspicious of her very quick recovery, and many point to it being a result of a body double. Side-by-side comparisons would be drawn from photos prior to the fall and after the fall, with many noting slight discrepancies in facial structure and physique. Accelerationism. Accelerationism is the political ideology which believes in accelerating the ideas of capitalism and technology to a whole new level, no matter the cost, including everything that could be considered negative about capitalism. This ideology has been embraced by many neo-Nazis as the new and improved Nazi ideal, having many circles and rallies held praising it. Gang stalking. Gang stalking is the practice of government-sent individuals indirectly destroying someone else's life through whatever means necessary. Many who gang stalk basically hold the purpose of just harassing whichever victim they choose, using mind control and subliminals to make the victim look completely fucking insane. There are several videos of people claiming to be gang stalked, many of which consist of people recording random strangers on the street, who they claim to be their gang stalker. Operation Northwoods. Operation Northwoods was the alleged secret government CIA plan during the Cold War to justify a war against Cuba. At the time when these operations were alleged to take place, the Cold War was at its peak, with the Soviet Union having just placed several intercontinental ballistic missiles in Cuban soil. It was proposed that this operation was meant to take place with the government and CIA committing acts of terrorism on their own people and blaming it on the Cuban government to justify an invasion. Reincarnation is hell. Hell is described by many Christians as the eternal suffering for people who have based their life around sin, and many people proclaim that the process of reincarnation, and just being born in general, is our eternal punishment. According to conspiracy, every time we die, we are reincarnated and forced to live life for eternity as a result of the actions of our previous lives. Truman Show reality. The Truman Show reality, also known as Truman Syndrome, is a delusion that causes some people to believe their entire life is a lie. Everyone they know is an actor, and that their life is being recorded on camera for any and all to see. Soviet time travel. I wasn't able to find much on this topic. The best I found were 3 pictures of people who all resembled current Russian leader Vladimir Putin. The one from 2015 is him, while the others are from separate generations. The first one is from 1920, and the second is from 1941, in the midst of the Second World War. Mars is the Garden of Eden. The location for the Garden of Eden is somewhat contested to this day. Many people assume that the Bible was referring to the location as being in Assyria, modern-day Iraq. Some theorists, however, point to the location of this biblical landmark as being outside of Earth completely, on Mars. Many connect the canals mentioned in the Bible as being located on Mars, but there is not solid convincing proof for this being the case. R245. In Scientology, there is this supposed process proposed by L. Ron Hubbard, in which the process for exteriorization is made the most efficient it can be. For those who don't know, exteriorization is the idea that human souls are immortal, but the bodies they inhabit are not. And the main goal of Scientology and exteriorization is to free the soul from the body. R245 claims to make the process more efficient by shooting yourself in the head with a .45 pistol. In other words, killing yourself. McMartin tunnels. The McMartin Tunnel specifically refers to a case in the late 80s, in which a family-owned preschool was charged with allowing and enacting the sexual abuse of children who were under their supervision. It's difficult to tell what the entry specifically refers to. I can only assume they mean that there were tunnels in which they operated the sexual abuse. Or maybe it offers an even larger idea, that this preschool is just one of many to be involved in a ring of sexual abuse of children. Kubrick did the moon landing. Stanley Kubrick is by far one of the most famous movie directors of all time, with many of his projects being way ahead of their time. He was responsible for directing the famous Shining movie, but another notable movie was the 2001 Space Odyssey, a film which revolved around space and the future of humanity. Many people claim that the famous director was recruited by the US government to stage a fake moon landing for the Apollo mission. According to theory, Stanley was told to make a stage for the astronauts to be set in, and that all the photographs that were taken of the moon are all complete hoaxes. People have pointed this out by noting several strange oddities in the photos, such as crosshairs looking off, and several things being overly washed out in the photos. US funds ISIS. I wasn't able to find much evidence to truly support this theory, but I did find something interesting. Apparently, there have been reports by multiple conspiracy theorists, which claim that several weapons and raw materials have been traced back to the US. In other words, the US is supplying ISIS with weapons and munitions. Catcher in the Rye incest subplot. No, I'm not buying this. For those who don't know, Catcher in the Rye is a coming-of-age story that follows a young misfit kid named Holden Caulfield who stumbles his way into maturity. One of the characters that we're introduced to is Phoebe, Holden's sister, and the relationship between the two are very close. Several people who support this prospect point to the very descriptive writing that the author implements when Holden describes her. I personally think it's a stretch, but I digress. Tor is government-owned. Now this theory is kind of true, but not in the way that you think. The Tor browser is famously known as the most anonymous browser on the internet. It was originally developed in the 90s by Paul Syverson. It appears to be funded by the US government, according to several sources, but the main theory that people claim is that Tor is not actually anonymous, and that the US government tracks and stores all activity in a large database meant to surveillance the American population. Mars slave colonies. I want to start this one off by saying that this one came from the Alex Jones show. So, yeah.
I am Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's Hillary.
This theory claims that NASA has abducted and kidnapped large groups of children and sent them off to Mars to facilitate a child sex ring and multiple labor camps.
Thompson's best friends, he's the famous artist, I interviewed him. He said Hunter S. Thompson was about to expose pedophile rings and things, and that it was disinfo against him by the pedophile rings because he was writing about it. Let me see what Robert David Steele has to say. Go ahead.
This may strike your listeners as way out, but we actually believe that there is a colony on Mars that is populated by children who were kidnapped and sent into space on a 20-year ride. So that once they get to Mars, they have no alternative but to be slaves on the Mars colony.
Hi, this is Barack Obama.
As you would expect, I wasn't able to find much to back up this theory. Ignore the fact that we don't even have this gear, money, or ability to inhabit Mars, let alone set up child slave colonies, but whatever. I'll throw you a bone, Alex. Operation Bluebeam. Operation Bluebeam, also known as Project Bluebeam, is the proposed idea to create a second coming of Christ. This second coming is meant to be the New World Order, in which the purpose of this order is to abolish all religions and create a universal one for humanity. It's also meant to completely abolish the concept of national pride, and even family, in order to have individuals meant to serve the New World government. Israeli animal spying. Many Middle Eastern governments and residents of their respective countries hold a belief that Israel is using animals as a way to spy on the activities of other nations and gather important information to topple and create coups in the nations around them. Many people believe that these are the actions of high-level Israeli government officials and Zionists, all of which propose this idea to establish an Israeli state with all the territory around them. Hyperreality. Hyperreality is the inability to distinguish what's real and what's fake, leaving them in this constant limbo of paranoia and belief that nothing is actually true. Many who have this tend to live their own personal movie, with the ideas of being in a simulation and the physical world melding together. Solipsism. Solipsism is kind of similar to hyperreality. However, the people who have this hold the belief that nothing is actually real at all except for themselves, and everything that they see around them is the construct of what their minds believe the real world to actually be. No other minds can be known, and their ideas of reality can't be seen, so therefore they're put into doubt of existing. JFK killed in an ultra-right coup. Lee Harvey Oswald was responsible for the murder of John F. Kennedy, but many people believe that Oswald was merely a part of a larger coup from the far right. The far right was unhappy with Kennedy's stance on how to handle communism, and they felt that his handling of things so far, especially the failed Bay of Pigs invasion, justified the assassination of the US president. The goal, in theory, was to send a decoy to kill Kennedy, take the blame, and set up the staging of a coup in the US government. Alex Jones is Bill Hicks. Bill Hicks is a famous American comedian who covered controversial subjects and found a way to make it funny. Unfortunately, he passed away in the 90s due to pancreatic cancer. Or did he? This theory claims that Bill Hicks isn't actually dead, and just continued on his career to become the famous conspiracist Alex Jones. This theory claims that Bill Hicks' death was faked, and that he ended up being recruited by the CIA to be the major proponent of counterculture against modern media. His goal for the CIA is to slowly brainwash the youth to follow him, and Hicks, or Jones in this case, would be fed official intel from the CIA themselves. Crowdfunded assassinations. Crowdfunding is the act of a large group of people donating small sums of money with the purpose of having it slowly build up in order to fund a product. The product, in this case, is assassination. I have heard of this being the case on the deep web, with many individuals supposedly paying and funding for assassinations of certain high-ranking officials. Sites like GoFundMe and Kickstarter would obviously be much more difficult to do this, for obvious reasons, given the fact that the people who would fund, let alone create this, could be easily found out, and the fund would likely be reported to police. However, it is something interesting to think about. Elections are fully rigged. This is a well-known conspiracy dating all the way back to the first election of the United States. However, it has become of more relevance recently in the 2016 election and the 2020 election. Many people have screamed fraud on both sides, with several people pointing to the left as inputting false ballots into boxes and attempting to stop the counting of Republican votes. This theory has even gone as far back as the 2000 election, with the initial counting of the vote putting Al Gore as the first president of the new millennium, only to have several recounts and legal battles to have the election flip around to George W. Bush. Secondhand smoking is a myth. No. Eco-fascism. Eco-fascism is a political ideology which sustains the belief that anyone who follows it and believes in it should sacrifice their self-worth and humanity in the name of nature. This ideology holds origins in Nazism, with Collegium Humanum, an organization based around eco-fascism, being entirely banned in Germany due to, quote, continued denial of the Holocaust. Professional sports are scripted. I could sort of see this being real. Proponents of this theory find the outcomes of sports events, especially large ones, as being scripted, or at least influenced by whichever outcome will garner them the most money and attention. There could be a possibility of money and negotiation being a big factor into what goes on during big sporting events, and having the outcomes result in huge conversations of the medium. PRISM. The PRISM program is a surveillance system which catalogs internet communications for several large internetical companies. The information gathered is then delivered to the United States National Security Agency for further examination. I'm sure you can see where this is going. This entry holds the idea that PRISM is used to examine the internet activity of US citizens as a way to keep them under lock and make sure that there are no plans against the government. Positivism. This one's a bit of a doozy. Positivism is the belief that aliens will be responsible in aiding the creation of a communist new world order. If it sounds crazy, don't worry, because it gets worse. So the ideas of positivism are meant to start as a result of an inevitable nuclear war, which resulted in a nuclear wasteland of inhabitability. Not bad so far. But then the ideology claims that all other ideological forms of any kind will be toppled. Aliens will come to Earth as a result of hearing this nuclear war, and they will then aid in rebuilding Earth into a global communist world. Who's the cock who made this theory? Was it you? Nigga. Bitcoins are created by world governments. The only government I was really able to trace this back to was the US government, with many claiming that Bitcoin was used to finance secret operations more anonymously, for the purpose of not having the American population track the activity. Esoteric Hitlerism. Esoteric Hitlerism, or esoteric Nazism, is kind of confusing to explain. It's basically any form of a mythical interpretation of Nazi beliefs. Some theories I saw happen to trace certain stars and planets, notably the star Aldebaran, as being the origin of the Aryan race, and also somehow tying in the Hollow Earth theory into it. Several neo-Nazi organizations are claimed to be under secret operation in Antarctica, just waiting to strike and take over the world, in order to re-establish Hitler's ambitions of Aryan domination. Aliens use humans for drug use. I wasn't quite sure what this theory was referring to. When I tried looking it up, I wasn't able to find anything saying this was true. However, I was able to find an Alex Jones conspiracy that drugs are used by the government to communicate with aliens. Jones claims that government officials and CIA agents use hard psychedelics as a way to harbor diplomacy among aliens. But then again, this is Alex Jones, so take it with a teensy-weensy grain of salt. MK Often. MK Often is closely related to the famous CIA theory of MK Ultra, an operation that supposedly studied and implemented the art of mind control. MK Often, however, refers to an operation that was run by the CIA for the purposes of testing the limits of drug use behavior in humans and animals. It's said that this operation was meant to run as a way to harbor the arts of dark magic, and that the purpose of gathering this information was used for manipulating innocent civilians using occult powers. Tila Tequila. No, this is not some alien alcoholic beverage. Tila Tequila is a washed-up celebrity who got her rise to fame after becoming the largest person on MySpace. She was offered several jobs in Hollywood and ended up pursuing several gigs in modeling. However, she would eventually have this flip be switched where she just went full-on crazy. She would show her support for Hitler's ideas and anti-Semitism, and would even make claims that she was possessed by Satan himself in 2012. The McDougall experiments. The McDougall experiments refer to the idea that souls have a physical weight, and the main goal of the experiments were to weigh the human body after the souls had departed. McDougall would basically go to the hospitals of people who were near death, weigh them, and then wait for them to die so he could weigh them again. The results of his experiments were not at all what he was hoping for. Surprise, surprise. Many people had reason to believe that these deaths were not coincidental, and that he actually ended up poisoning these patients himself. Chris Chan is the smiley face killer. In short, no. For those who don't know, Chris Chan is a YouTuber slash musician slash artist, but overall he's more of a public figure in general. He's known for being the target of many online trolling communities, and is also cited as having the most well-documented life in human history, with his life having been documented all the way back since childhood. However, I have a hard time believing someone as fat and lazy as Chris Chan has the capability of conceiving one of the most mysterious cases of murder that the American public has ever seen. Plus, I also can't really see how someone with as well of a documented life as Chris Chan can keep a murder hidden from the police.
This makes me really angry.
Come on, Spot!
Yeah, not buying it. US biowar materials in Iraq. I'm not too sure what this theory was referring to specifically. I can only really assume that this entry refers to the Iran-Iraq war that went on during the Reagan administration, in which the US aided Iraq against Iran during the Middle Eastern conflict. According to several conspiracy theories that I found online, the US ended up feeding Iraq far too much material to be able to take advantage of and go rogue. Elon Musk mind control. Neuralink is a company founded by Elon Musk in 2016, in which the purpose is to create implantable brain-machine interfaces. Some of the features of this device would allow you to be able to record and replay memories, measure brain activity consistently, and enhance the human mind. Now, this idea of course raised some eyebrows among the people who heard of it, claiming that this implant would only make it easier for the government to not only watch what we do, but know what we think, and possibly have the ability to manipulate the people who wear it and control their minds. Planned extinction. Planned extinction is the process of humans artificially being responsible for the complete extinction of a species. I wasn't too sure what this entry was necessarily referring to though. There have been an abnormal amount of extinctions of species, but the theories don't seem to provide a reason as to why, since the extinction of species would only result in everyone, including the perpetrators, being negatively affected from the crippling of the food chain. Apparently, several theories I saw claim that the mass extinction of animals across the world is a result of radical anarchists who just want to see the world burn, but I'm not too sure about that one. Disney cruise trafficking. The closest I could find relating to this entry was a case of a Disney cruise liner, Oliver Lovett, who apparently molested a 10-year-old boy who he had under his supervision. There was apparent footage on CCTV cameras that were able to capture the incident, but I didn't even want to try looking for it since, well, it's kiddie porn. This person has been accused of several other forms of sexual contact with children on the Disney cruise, but as of now, those other claims are still up in the air. Xenofeminism. This entry likely refers to the manifesto of the same name, which advocates for the eradication and abolishment of gender as a whole, resulting in all of humanity being agender or genderless. The manifesto apparently sees this as the solution to all prejudice in the world, since, apparently, once this is actually implemented, the reconstruction of the world with the new xenofeminist ideals will cause global peace around the world, and have everyone be nice and kind and happy. No problems at all.
Hi.
New World Airport Commission. This entry on the Iceberg refers to the Denver airport, which has had several conspiracies come up from people thinking that the people who run this airport are keeping things secret. Theories suggest that the airport was built by the New World Order as a way to monitor the world's activities and discuss secret operations. Others believe the airport is specifically run by either the Illuminati or the Freemasons, and others believe that the blue horse statue that's near the airport is meant to be a clue to the apocalypse. Weaponized smallpox. Biowarfare is anything but a new concept. Using smallpox has been dated back as early as the 1700s during the French and Indian Wars. with the French dumping infected bodies towards the Indian tribes in order to cripple them with disease. I would assume this entry refers to smallpox being used as a weapon in the modern day, but given the fact that there haven't been any effective or noted signs of weaponized smallpox, make me not really believe this theory. Stephen King killed John Lennon. Stephen King is the famous horror author responsible for creating the works of It, Shawshank, and many other famous stories. However, many people believe that he was responsible for the murder of the now dead Beatles member, John Lennon. The theory claims that the music that John Lennon was creating at the time was influencing and creating this anti-war sentiment in America and causing many to want to follow it. The government saw this as a problem and apparently saw Stephen King as the perfect man for the job. The theory claims that David Chapman was actually just a hired actor who was meant to take the blame for the stunt, with his entire Beatles-related background being entirely set up by the US government to detract people from the antics that Stephen King was responsible for. Original Jeff the Killer image. Jeff the Killer is the famous creepypasta character of the same name, who basically got bullied nonstop day in and day out, finally snapped, killed his bullies, lost his mind, and killed the rest of his family afterwards. This creepypasta was accompanied by a hyper-realistic image of the supposed Jeff the Killer. Many were very obviously disturbed by the image, and sought to seek out the original Jeff the Killer image and its full origin. Several photos have risen on the internet, with many claiming that these images are the original ones for Jeff the Killer. The most widely accepted image for the origin of Jeff the Killer was this one. Thought Reform Totalism. This entry refers to a book which studied and sought to explore the potential for brainwashing that was going on in China. Some reports in this exploration cite several interviews done with former American servicemen who were captured by the Chinese in the Korean War. Behavioral changes were noted from the interviews, with a complete shift in opinion from what the captured once believed to what they now believe, making it clear to many that the Chinese government employed mind control tactics to manipulate the servicemen and essentially brainwash them. Amazon forest was built. According to many conspiracy theories, the Amazon rainforest is not actually what we once thought it was. From very early on, it was the popular consensus that the Amazon forest was natural and practically untouched by humanity. However, this theory suggests quite the contrary. Apparently, the rainforest was actually under selective and purposeful tree planting since the beginning of its discovery. Theorists tend to believe that the people responsible for the creation of the Amazon were Native Americans who were attempting to create the most opportunistic and beneficial land for them to live in. Neanderthal superiority. Neanderthal superiority refers to the concept that Neanderthals aren't actually as stupid as we once thought, but in fact are actually superior to Homo sapiens and are the most intelligent beings on the planet. It seems that this theory suggests that Neanderthals are living in this secret society of elite leaders, controlling the world from their own hidden locations throughout the Earth. Human intelligence comes from cannibalism. No. The only thing it really seems to cause is disease, so yeah, no. Aliens caused the bubonic plague. The bubonic plague was one of the deadliest epidemics in history, being credited as almost wiping out the entire population of Europe. Many people at the time believed that this was the wrath of God, while others believed this was a setup for the second coming of Christ. However, people today believe that the plague was caused from aliens. Early Europeans claimed to have seen large discs dropping a mist from the sky and spreading the virus through that manner. Many credit the plague as being manufactured by aliens as a way of wiping out all life on Earth for the purposes of establishing the planet as another addition to their galactic empire. American Eugenics Society. The AES refers to an underground movement with the purpose of selective human breeding for the sake of genetic purity. Eugenics, in general, refers to the exclusion of certain races and groups of people for the purpose of maintaining purity of the preferred race and having all other ones die out in order to advance humanity. Ancient history happened in the middle. No, the nuke is the alchemical hermaphrodite. What? I don't know, I'm honestly fucking lost on this one. Alex?
My name's Glenn Beck.
Legal rape resorts. This entry is very straightforward, with it blatantly suggesting that there are resorts all throughout the world which allow for legal rape. Now, I don't doubt the validity of this theory to a certain extent. I was looking for evidence or several online forums that would supplement or go more in depth with this theory, but I wasn't able to find much. I'm sure this is a thing though. This could very possibly exist outside of national borders and away from laws, allowing for rape and crime itself to run rampant around these quote-unquote resorts. Micropenis worship. This entry on the Iceberg is exactly how it sounds. It's a sub-community of people who worship the art of having a micropenis. I managed to find several recordings of women who just prayed to dildos. I also found several audio recordings of women who would say how much they really love small cocks. I don't know, what the fuck? If you, for whatever reason, know someone who has a micro penis, don't be friends with them. They're losers. Anti-natalism. Anti-natalism is the philosophy of basically being anti-birth. In other words, if someone is an anti-natalist, this person holds the idea that reproduction of any form is morally wrong. It's basically the counter of human biology. The Red rooms. Red rooms are a pretty popular idea, with many people actually believing that they're real. Red rooms are basically live snuff films where people are live streamed to murder on the deep web. The viewers are then given the option to choose how the victim is going to be killed, and the perpetrators actually do it, all for the viewing pleasure of the audience. Many people, especially law enforcement, deny its existence, considering the fact that they are almost impossible to stumble upon. And to this day, there has not been a verified red room that has appeared in the public eye. Aetherians. Aetherians are people who believe in aliens, and believe that these alien beings are some sort of deities. Aetherians are part of the larger Aetheria society, whose goal is to basically get into contact with extraterrestrial beings for the purpose of having them rebuild the planet and set us on the path of total human expansion. In this movement, humans are practically meant to live a life of perfection, and the concept of having good karma is especially emphasized, presumably because if you aren't a good person, then the aliens won't help you. Sounds gay and stupid, but mostly gay. ISIS doesn't exist. This one doesn't actually exist. This is a bunch of hyper mumbo jumbo, low class, dumb, gay Xenomix fetus farming. Xenomix is a company which specializes in enhancing the taste of certain food products for consumption. However, Xenomix fetus farming refers to the theory that the company actually uses tissue cells from aborted fetuses as a way to amplify the flavor of the food they make. While I was looking, I managed to find a petition on change.org before that shit was cool. This petition proposed to stop Xenomix from using human fetuses as their flavor amplifiers. Agriculture doomed humanity. I guess this one's kind of true, but not in the way that you think. I mean, in a figurative sense, I guess you could say it had a negative impact. Someone could make the argument that agriculture created class and therefore class divisions, resulting in society to be run by power, and that power therefore creates an elite core of people who leave the rest to rot, and the people who are left to rot have no choice but to either live under slavery or rise above in revolution and take over the world, creating an entirely new world order and dominating the galaxy. But that's a bit of a stretch. Just a tad bit. God was raped. So apparently, before the conception of the actual existence of humanity on Earth, God was raped by another cosmic deity. Whoever this deity is, I don't fucking know. But apparently humanity was essentially the product of this rape. And that's why God isn't present in humanity's life, because he essentially wanted to abandon his child of rape, quote unquote. California fires are energy weapons tests. This entry states that the many California fires that go on throughout the state are created artificially as a result of testing weaponry for the US military. Many wildfires have been proven to be a result of arson, but these apparent arsonists are merely testing top secret weapons for the sake of seeing the effect of these weapons in real world scenarios. Iraq was nuked. The only country I was really able to trace this back to was the US. Several theories I saw told that Iraq was nuked during the Gulf War in the late 90s, composed of a coalition led by the US to keep Iraq out of other nations' oil territories. There were many airstrikes commenced in Iraq during the war, but the Gulf War was intensely covered by the news at the time, and the idea of the US nuking Iraq and not having it be all over the news is unlikely to me. Christ dick worship. I was not able to find anything on this entry, but it's pretty obvious that this one's more of a meme. To be honest, I think it actually could be real. I mean, the idea of someone worshipping the cock of the Lord doesn't seem like a far-fetched idea to me. Stab wound fucking. Stab wound fucking is pretty self-explanatory and more on the degenerate faggot side of the fetish spectrum. This fetish is pretty much someone creating a stab wound on someone else and then fucking that stab wound for their own pleasure. I saw a couple videos on it and I love it. It's great. Corporate blood rituals. This entry refers to an apparent controversy that went on which consisted of 20,000 people getting dismembered and brutally mutilated in the name of corporate America. I wasn't quite sure what that meant, so I went digging, and apparently a priest by the name of James N. Cahill was responsible for these rituals, all for the purpose of restocking shelves at retail stores. Quote, though the ceremony's origins are shrouded in mystery, most scholars agree on its historical success, noting that the yearly killings have coincided with an exponential growth in corporate earnings over the past 2 centuries. Recently, however, some high-profile academics have suggested the practice is flawed, citing the recent economic malaise as evidence. Now I don't know what the hell this is, but given the fact that I only managed to find 2 articles and one of them linked to the other, makes me think it's safe to say it's a hoax. Or maybe not. Maybe Walmart is sacrificing some African kids with Ebola. Oh, come on, it's a joke. North Korea is run by the CIA. I managed to find a couple threads that said the CIA was apparently secretly surveillancing North Korea, but I highly doubt that's what the entry was referring to. So I dug a little deeper and found some information about Kim Jong-nam, Kim Jong-un's half-brother. This half-brother was apparently rumored to be a CIA informant for the US, and apparently the US was receiving secret intel into the inner workings of North Korea. China never went communist. This one's just more of a meme, really. China remains to be a communist nation, with there being a very obviously closed off and secretive government patrolling the activity of their population. Yeah, not really buying it. The Zapruder film was faked. The Zapruder film was a sequence of color motion pictures which unintentionally caught the assassination of John F. Kennedy. But I didn't really know what this theory was trying to say. Is it just saying that the film was fake but Kennedy was actually alive? I mean, everyone there pretty much witnessed his death. But while looking, I found a book called The Zapruder Film Hoax, which basically claimed that several witnesses to the event had slightly different stories, and also claimed that there were too many discrepancies to claim the film as being fully authentic. Soviet Hardcore. I wasn't really able to find anything specifically regarding Soviet hardcore, but I was able to find stuff about hardcore in general. So basically, hardcore is a genre of pornography which involves the sexual gratification of seeing or having pain inflicted. Apparently this stuff is very popular with children being the primary victims of these hardcore videos. This is apparently becoming very popular amongst many pedophile forums, with there being full-on communities dedicated to jerking off and discussing how much they love hardcore. What the fuck? Politics are LARP. LARP is an abbreviation for live action role-playing games, and this entry says that politics is one of them. According to several articles and theories, all politicians and any other form of government agency are just people portraying a fake character they made up in the real world, and them running the country or having any say in government affairs is just one big role-playing game. North Korea is fuck off. YouTube monkey torture. So on YouTube, there's this sub-community of videos which are basically just a haven of animal cruelty done specifically to monkeys. This isn't necessarily only dedicated to monkeys though. There was one YouTuber a while back named Peluchin Entertainment, what a stupid name, who basically abused his cat on camera. There are also many videos right now of rats and mice just basically being tossed into a fucking playground of jumper cables. This is what gets millions of views? This looks like a fucking sadistic eBay auction. Bacterial humanity. There are several things this entry could be referring to. The one that I assume it refers to is the concept that humans are just intelligent bacteria and Earth is our host. It's hard to tell, but that's what I'm assuming it's talking about. Theory suggests that all the negative effects that humanity has had on Earth is a result of our quote-unquote bacterial behavior to just use up our host, and once we're done, we move on to the next. Ebola worship. Ebola worship is basically just how it sounds. People who deeply worship Ebola with a passion. This apparently came from a meme on 4chan, in which the users on there were jokingly convincing people that the doctors who were studying Ebola actually worshipped it. I saw an article from the Washington Post in which the headline said, 4chan's latest terrible prank, convincing West Africans that Ebola doctors actually worship the disease. I fucking love 4chan. The Bible is actually the future. This theory comes from many religious groups and conspiracy theorists who claim that the reason the Bible is able to predict so many future events is because the Bible actually comes from the future. This theory, however, isn't very well substantiated since many of the apparent predictions that the Bible has made have either been wrong, debunked, or just so vague that you can't even really call it a prediction. Bhutanese Shadow Market. Bhutan is a South Asian nation located on the eastern Himalayas. It's pretty small, landlocked, and doesn't have much of an interesting aspect to it. However, there are theories that suggest that there is a black market circulating throughout the nation. Some of the items you're able to purchase are souls, immortality, and the normal black market things you would normally find. There was an interesting thing I managed to find called slut stocks, which basically set the value for human trafficking as for whichever prostitute they sold having endured the most trauma. CP soundtracks. No, these are not real things. I looked all over to find some info about what these things were, and I have a small hunch that they weren't talking about Club Penguin. Just a small hunch, just a little bit. I can only assume that this entry is talking about audio recordings of children being raped, but then again, I can't be too sure. I wasn't really able to find much, and to be honest, I really didn't even want to. The US and EU control climate change. I'm not too sure what this entry is really proposing. Both the US and the EU are responsible for a considerable chunk of CO2 emissions around the world, So in that sense, yes, they do have a pretty big hand in climate change, but this entry might be referring to them literally having control of the climate and being able to change it whenever they please. That, however, is doubtful. If they really had control of it like that, then there would literally be no point for daylight savings, and it would all just be a waste of time. Got him. No pun intended. Humans were the first organism. No, this is just not true. There have been a gajillion more species and organisms before us. Not to mention that bacteria would literally have to come before us in order for us to exist. It's not like we just came out of nowhere. That's your mom's job. Got him. I mean, if you want to argue that we were the first sentient organisms, sure, I'll give you that one. But the first organism in general? No. The lottery exists to catch time travelers. Now, the concept of time travel has been a hotspot for conspiracy for ages. But this specific entry says that time travelers are able to be caught by winning the lottery. Now, I could see how this thought process could arise given the near impossible chance that you could win the lottery, the chances of which are apparently around 1 in 300 million, so tough titty. But if someone actually did have a time traveling machine, I feel like money would be entirely valueless at that point, since what the fuck are you gonna spend it on? You already have a time machine, you greedy bitch. Privately owned nuclear weapons. This one is actually very plausible if it is what I think it's talking about. What I'm assuming is that this entry is referring to a country who secretly owns nukes. There are theories that Iraq and Iran are secretly working on developing nukes, and some even say they have it, but just aren't showing it yet. If it's talking about a particular person owning a nuke, it would be pretty much impossible to acquire it. And even if you did, you would almost 100% get caught. The only way someone could purchase it is more than likely on the dark web. And if you were to give the seller your credit card information to buy it and not get scammed, it's pretty much a guarantee that you would be on some sort of watch list. And if you finally manage to get it and not get caught, now what, asshole? Now you have a concealed explosive. And it's not like you can go to your local Walmart and detonate it. So now you need a fucking plane or a drone to drop off the bomb and not have police suspect some weird flying device holding a bomb. Seems like too much work to me. Anti-vax is population control psyops. This one's an interesting one. Now, of course, if someone is anti-vax, they're more prone to being infected by illnesses. And this theory says that whenever they die from whatever illness infects them, that is population control. This theory has risen quite a bit due to the coronavirus, and given the fact that many people consider it to be a hoax, leads people to believe that those people are a product of psyops. 9/11 was an accident. I did my best to try and find this conspiracy and evidence regarding it, but unfortunately I could not. I'm gonna go on a limb here and say this theory is almost definitely false. Due to all the video evidence and real life evidence of an impact, and the information that was managed to be obtained, it was almost definitely an intentionally planned attack on the Twin Towers. But I assume this was more of a meme, so LSD is a mind virus. I mean, yeah. You could pretty much say that about any psychedelic drug. It's pretty much just a crazy trip. But I wouldn't know, I'm straight edge. Zuckerberg suicide, 2003. This theory seems to say that the creator of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, ended up killing himself in 2003. Something you'll notice is that the farther down the iceberg we go, the harder it becomes to quantify and find sources on the entries that I'm talking about. So with that being said, I had a bit of trouble finding information about this topic. The most I could find was an article from a while back, which reported on Facebook accidentally saying that Mark Zuckerberg was dead, which was of course false. It's not very well backed up. Bog bodies are stored as super disease hosts for biowarfare. This theory is very literal, with it pretty much saying that these bodies are used for war purposes. Now, in case some of you don't know, bog bodies are basically just mummified bodies that are caused naturally. According to this entry, several militaries store these bodies for safekeeping, in whatever biowarfare endeavors they do. This isn't really a new thing though. I was able to trace dead bodies being used for biowarfare back to the Mongols, who catapulted dead bodies infected with the plague to spread it across numerous cities and provinces. The color red causes cancer. I wasn't too sure what this meant specifically. At first I assumed that they meant that seeing the color red causes cancer. I also found several sources and articles that went over the topic of red food coloring being alleged to cause cancer, but in both scenarios it seems to be entirely false. Seeing the color red obviously doesn't cause cancer. There's no way in hell that just looking at some color causes a disease, let alone it being red, a common color we see in everyday life. And the articles talking about red food coloring causing cancer pretty much came to the consensus that it was false and stupid. Self-inducing schizophrenia. Self-inducing schizophrenia is schizophrenia that is caused by your own doing. Now, when I was looking for this, I found several cases of people having stories of self-induced depression and psychosis, but the concept of being able to cause your own schizophrenia seems a little out of line. It doesn't seem impossible, but Neanderthal shadow government. As we discussed previously, Neanderthals were alongside Homo sapiens, but ended up dying off for whatever reason. However, this theory suggests quite the opposite. Apparently, Not only did Neanderthals end up surviving with us, but they ended up developing well enough to be concealed from the knowledge of humans. These Neanderthals apparently controlled many world governments, like the US, Russia, and China. And the politicians we see running for power in these countries are just puppets and figureheads that are put in place so that the people being controlled are none the wiser. China's real population. Many people in the modern day claim that China, currently the most populated nation on Earth, is actually lying about their true population. If you were to look up their population right now, it would pop up to being around 1.4 billion. But people all over the world seem to doubt that statistic. I've actually seen this theory quite a bit, especially since China's not new to lying. A lot of people actually think they don't even have much above 500 million. And the reason in theory as to why China hides their true population is that they want to remain the most populated country above India, and they also want to appear more powerful than they really are. IKEA concentration camps. Several articles online reported about IKEA using forced labor camps from East Germany. Now, when I first saw this entry, I was a bit confused, but then the more I looked into it, it started getting a bit more disturbing. Before German reunification, IKEA used East German prisoners for the purpose of manufacturing products and goods that IKEA would later sell to consumers. This isn't the first time I've heard a company has done this. I mean, there were companies like Nestle and Disney who were apparently exposed a while back for using forced child labor, so I'm not too surprised by this prospect. Skin is an alien parasite. This one's kind of fucking stupid. It's pretty obvious what it's talking about, but I'm not really buying it. A parasite by definition is something that lives inside or on an organism for the purpose of feeding off the host and benefiting from it. But with that being said, it's not like skin lives off of us like this co-relationship. And also, this theory seems to insinuate that we're not meant to have skin on us since it's a parasite. So what, before that we were just walking piles of bone and flesh? It seems a bit stupid if you ask me. Jesus Christ is a US president from the future. What? No. Christ was in the fucking ancient Roman Empire with really primitive technology. That doesn't sound like the future to me. Or maybe. Nah, that's stupid. Nothing outside your vision exists. This one's kind of similar to solipsism, but just a bit different. In this scenario, your mind is actually the only thing that remotely exists. It's almost like a video game type theory. Whenever you look in a certain direction, that area loads in for your eyes to generate and perceive, and everything that you aren't looking at is just a dark void of nothingness. I mean, I guess you can't really disprove it, but that's not really a point in its favor. World War II was mostly crisis actors. A crisis actor is a person who basically acts out and roleplays a fake disaster, mainly for the purpose of preparing cops and soldiers for the real thing. Now, this theory claims that World War II, the most devastating war in history, was mostly full of crisis actors. Now, I have trouble with this theory for two reasons. One, it seems kind of stupid to roleplay a global war just to train your soldiers. And two, there was a visibly large portion, like tens of millions of people who died during the war. So if most of those people were just actors, this is the most elaborate stunt just to train the military. The sky is a hologram. This entry is a pretty popular one among many conspiracies out there that I've seen. And just like the other ones, they're not good. Instead of answering questions, this theory actually ends up raising more questions, like who did this? Why did they do this? Was this made by aliens? If so, how? I tried to look up websites or videos online that would be able to answer some of these questions, but unfortunately, many of the sites I saw just ended up kind of tiptoeing their way around those questions and answered the ones that no one really gave a fuck about. Not to mention the big hole in this theory, like how the fuck were we able to go into space if the sky's a hologram? But whatever. Grifter porn parody. For those of you who don't know, the grifter was a made-up creepypasta from 4chan, which blew up all around the internet. The creepypasta goes that there was a video circulating around called The Grifter. In the post that first mentioned it, there were several images which were apparently screenshots from the film. The story said that anyone who ended up watching it would die in their home for mysterious reasons. Obviously though, it was fake and just another 4chan meme. The grifter porn parody, however, that one I had trouble finding. The film had apparently featured a baby in it, and the idea of a baby and porn mixing together doesn't sound very legal. I tried to see if this thing actually existed, and many of the people who had the same question I did were pretty much told that this was just some elaborate troll and meme to raise awareness for the story. So there we go. JFK killed himself. For this to be true, there would need to be a lot of factors to conveniently come into play. For one, the Zapruder film would need to be completely fake. Two, all of the eyewitnesses there would need to have all been mistaken when they saw JFK get shot. 3, the guards and the people who were there to protect JFK would have to have not seen him pull out a gun and shoot himself. 4, Lee Harvey Oswald would need to have either missed the shot or have not been there entirely. Do I even have to keep on going? Yeah, not convinced. Meth immortality. This theory is just a pile of shit. First of all, who the fuck made this thing up? A meth head? Alright, let me play devil's advocate here for a second. I found a post on 4chan which was talking about this, and I wanted to read it out for you guys since I think it speaks for itself. I think I found a fascinating esoteric link between crystals and methamphetamine. Let's look at this in closer detail. Crystals are known in occult circles for their energetic and healing properties. Methamphetamine is also known as crystal meth. Meth makes your mind speed up and go without food for long periods of time, without eating, basically turning you into a breatharian. Coincidence? Meth is also known as speed, because it connects you with the Speed Force, the same thing the Flash, Flashman, and the Nazis all connected with to win World War III. Coincidence? I think not. Yeah, this is obviously a joke. There's no way in hell that meth can give you immortality. I mean, if there are any meth users out there that want to fucking correct me and flame me in the comments, go ahead, but otherwise, I think this is a pile of shit. Reagan was successfully assassinated. Back in the early 80s, there was an attempted assassination against Ronald Reagan by John Hinckley Jr. This hunk of a man ended up shooting and wounding the president, but didn't actually end up killing him. However, certain theories claim that Reagan was actually successfully assassinated, and that the government at the time ended up covering it up using a lookalike to take his place for the rest of the term. I guess it isn't impossible, but then again, if this is a lookalike, that's a pretty fucking spot on one. With the look, the voice, everything. I mean, shit, does he fuck his wife like the real one too? Humans are made into oil. This one's actually more possible than you would think. For one, it is actually possible to create oil from human fat and other shit like that. So in that sense, yes, but I assume this theory means that oil companies dig up dead bodies and turn them into oil. I don't entirely rule that out. There probably are some nefarious things going on secretly with oil companies like there is with pretty much any other large company out there. So yeah, I don't deny that there's probably some weird black market shit where human remains are turned into fuel. Atom bombs never existed. Alright, now these are getting fucking retarded. When I was looking for information on this entry, I ended up finding a post on Reddit which pretty much screams either troll or someone who is completely out of their fucking mind. Nuclear weapons don't exist. Never have, never will. 1. It's communist propaganda. Do you remember? The communists won World War II. 2. Splitting atoms does not release energy rapidly, only very, very slowly. Fuel, yes. Bombs, no. DU warheads are real. All nuke footage you've seen was either 1920 style composite scale effects or just huge TNT explosions. Kids these days can tell the difference, even if you still cannot. 4. Hiroshima plus Nagasaki were firebombed, along with 65 other cities before anyone had taken up the nuke rhetoric. You don't find memorials for burning Japanese children alive with gasoline, only for incinerating them with fake flash nuclear bombs. 5. Did you know it's 100% illegal to deny the existence of nuclear bombs in USA, UK, Japan, Korea, etc, etc, etc? Why is that? Did you know that fusion between hydrogen into helium has never been proven in a lab? Bet you didn't know that. It might not be possible. Even if it were possible, there's no guarantee that fusion, the opposite of fission, actually releases energy at all. The bigger picture here is that nuclear weapons do not exist. Neither fission reactions nor the hypothetical fusion reaction is capable of releasing instantaneous energy. Fission is in fact very slow, which is why it is used in nuclear power plants. Yeah, this is fucking stupid. Assuming this person is actually real and authentic, which I hope they're not, I like how they didn't provide a single source for what they said. I mean, shit, this guy comes off like a fucking pseudo-intellectual college dropout. Tides aren't caused by the moon. As we all know, tides are caused as a result of the gravitational pull that the moon has on the ocean. This theory, however, completely denies that prospect. The evidence I saw for people who made this claim said that if the moon really did cause tides, then why are lakes and ponds not affected? The reason why lakes and ponds don't really have tides are because those are small bodies of water. Things like lakes or tides don't really have enough water most of the time to really visibly see tides or waves being caused by the moon. Plus, this theory doesn't even answer the question that if the moon doesn't cause tides, then what does? A fucking ghost? I tried looking for anything on the internet for what else could cause tides besides the moon, unfortunately to no avail. Apollo 11 landed on the wrong moon. Okay, so which moon did they land on? See, the thing with conspiracy theories like these is they propose an idea for something, but the idea they propose ends up raising more questions than answers. And it's like, if they didn't land on Earth's moon, then which one was it? Well, I don't fucking know. I tried looking all over the internet to fish out some sort of info for this theory, but I could not find a single thing. So I'm assuming it's just a meme. Empty internet. This entry claims that the majority of internet users are not actually real at all, but are instead bots. It sounds kind of stupid though. Don't get me wrong, there are a ton of bots on the internet for the purpose of selling scams or giving free promotion to a company. But bots are definitely not the majority of users on the internet, and especially not platforms that require transactions and paying for shit. There are billions of users online, so it's definitely not empty, and definitely not only run by bots. 9/11 happens every year, and now we end off this list on one of the most anticlimactic entries on this iceberg. 9/11 happens every year. If it's saying that airplanes crash into giant towers every year, that's not true, because if it was, then it would be a fucking goldmine for every publication. And if this entry means that a replication of 9/11 happens every year in the exact same way, then it's also not true, because again, it would be on every publication. You know, this iceberg was kind of funny. And the fact that it ended off on some of the most confusing and intricate theories of all time doesn't show a lack of self-awareness, but a lack of true knowledge. The government is watching. Nothing is real. Nothing is. No. You are losing your mind. The universe ended. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Hello. I hope you enjoyed the video. It took me a while to make, so I hope you like it. All right, fuck that. It was kind of fun. It was pretty fun to make that video. I enjoyed it personally. I think the process of it was pretty cool. It was fun to look over all the fucking stupid theories I saw online. And yeah, I also wanted to thank my good friends John and Victor for helping me research this video. If you guys are watching this far, fuck you. I hate you. Nah, I'm just kidding. They helped me research a bit, and you know, I appreciate it. I also want to mention, before I log off and get you guys on your way, I want to say that I really appreciate the support I've been getting recently. I think that you know, with my last video, the Call Me Carson one, you know, I saw you guys really enjoyed it, and you know, it's my first video to hit 2,000 views, and my first video to hit 1,000 views as quickly as it did. I mean, I think I hit it in under a week, in under half a week, I think so. This is fucking insane growth for me, and you know, every video you guys watch and, you know, show support for and comment and subscribe, you know, it genuinely helps me, and it genuinely gives me feedback as to, you know, what content you guys enjoy, what content you guys want me to put out. While I am making this channel for myself and I'm making these videos for me personally because it's my interest and my hobby, I also do want to know what you guys want to watch as well. You know, it's a two-way relationship. I'm doing this for me, but I'm also doing it to entertain you guys. And also, I will end up doing live streaming sometime eventually, but not now. Main reason being because I don't have my PC yet. I also kind of want to reserve it to when I have 1,000 subs, because I feel like that's when I'll have a concurrent viewer base, but I'm not really in a rush for that. So yeah, that's it for me, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.